All right, hello second grade. So today we're going to explore different medias, and we're going to work as a community of artists to use our materials respectfully, and we are going to work as a community of artists to clean up the art room and put things back where they go. So the first thing we need to do is you're going to get a large white piece of paper and write your name on it. Write the day you have art, day A, day B, day C. You're going to flip it over. And then we need to break this paper up into 6 boxes. And in order for the boxes to be equal, I'm going to give you a little ruler piece of paper or spacer paper. And this is the exact width of 1/3 of this paper, because we want to have 3 boxes going across on the top and the bottom. So you want to put this spacer down in the middle of your rectangle. And you want to look at this space and this space on either side of the ruler spacer. On this side, is it the same space as this side? This side looks smaller, so I know, and this side looks larger. So I know I need to scoot this over until both sides look equal. Okay? That looks pretty close, but this side to me looks a little bit larger, so just a smidge over. All right, so this is more equal. So you're going to hold down the ruler and you're going to draw a line on one side from top to bottom and a line on the other side from top to bottom. You'll give this back to me so we can use it again. And then now you have 3 equal rectangles. We want 6 equal spaces. So now you're going to take the top of your paper, bring it down to the bottom of your paper, and you're going to crease it all the way across. You're going to open this back up. You might need to bend it the other direction to get it to lie flat, and then you're going to draw right on that crease a line going across your paper. And so now you have 6 equal boxes. So within each of these boxes we're going to try a different media, and we're going to explore different types of media. So in the Prezi I showed you how artists explore different medias. So with crayon being our first one, I showed you how artists practice and explore by pressing lightly with the crayon, by pressing dark or hard to make a dark color with the crayon. So we're getting 2 values here with the same crayon. I haven't changed the crayon at all. They've tried gradation, where they go from light to dark or dark to light. So I'm going to start pressing lightly, and then as I go further down I press a little bit harder, harder, and harder, so that I get a gradation from light to medium to dark. And there's nothing that says you have to stay with the same color in the box. Also, we looked at hatch marks, so I'd like you to try some hatch marks. We looked at cross hatch marks. Could try a crayon on its side and see what that does. And kind of creates a nice texture. You could also overlap the colors and see if you can make a new color. So let's see, I'll do green. I'm not pressing real hard with the green. And then yellow on top. Let's see if they mix and make a new color. You can try different shapes. You can try a dark outline and then filling it in lightly. Alright, so crayon will be our first media that we experiment with. The next media will be markers. So with markers, we looked at hatch marks.
Good morning, Becky David staff. It's 8:45. I know it's raining, but let's make it a great Wednesday.
So the next media we'll explore is marker, and you can try hatch marks, cross hatch marks. We looked at how you could do a controlled scribble. Great thing about these markers is you have the point, and then you could use the wide part. So you can get a skinny line with the marker, but if you turn it and use the wide part, you can get a thicker line with the marker. So we're going to experiment. I don't want you to overlap and mix the colors with the markers because that ruins the tips of the markers. But try different things, or you could try different, like we did a scribble here, maybe you do a repeated shape over and over again and see what that does. And then you could do a scribble, controlled scribble around it. And that's experimenting with marker. All right, and our next media that we're going to experiment with are color pencils. Now with color pencils, you'll have a paper towel and a pencil sharpener that you'll share with your table. The pencil sharpener has a large opening and a small opening. You'll use the small opening. And this pencil sharpener does not catch the shaving, so that's why we have the paper towel. So you put your color pencil in the small opening, you push and twist. You got to push and twist at the same time, pushing in as you twist. See the shavings coming out of the top. Those need to fall on the paper towel and not on the table or in the color pencil bin. So you'll sharpen your color pencil. Color pencil can be used similarly to crayon, so you can color lightly with color pencil. You can color dark by pressing hard. You can do a gradation where you could start dark and then lighten your pressure. To create a gradation from dark to light. Hatch marks. I mean, nothing says you have to use the same color the whole time, so I'll give you a little extra time with the color pencils to give you some time to sharpen if you need to, because sharpening can take a few minutes and you want to be able to experiment with them and not spend your whole time sharpening. So you can try hatch marks. Hatch marks you can do close together or far apart. You can do cross hatch marks. You can try and color from the side of it. See what you can get from there. Shapes. Try different kinds of lines. Try wavy lines and zigzag lines. And then when it's time to clean up the color pencils, you will always bring this back to me, the sharpener, you'll bring that back to me and put it on my desk. And then the shavings stay on the paper towel, and then you carefully wad the paper towel up with the shavings inside. And then you will put this in the trash can. And then the last drawing media we're going to experiment with is oil pastel. Oil pastel, depending on how you color with them, can look like crayon. So if I color lightly with the oil pastel, it looks like crayon. But if I press hard with the oil pastel, I get this smooth velvety texture that's really neat to work with. You can do a gradation where you start and go from dark to light or light to dark. You can overlap the colors. So I could take, let's do green and yellow. So I'll start and I'll color green. And then I'll take the yellow and I'll color yellow overlapping the green. Just like that. And then you can take a paper towel, wrap it around your finger, and you can smear these colors back and forth onto each other so that you can get a gradation from yellow to yellow, green to green. Let's see, you could do a shape. Press hard. And then you could find a clean part of the paper towel, wrap it around your finger, and you can smear that color into the inside of the shape. Try different lines. So try a zigzag line. Try a wavy line. Try a dotted line. And then you could smear those as well. Make sure you use a clean part of the paper towel. If you use a dirty part, you're going to smear and mix those two colors together. Alright, and so that is our last of the drawing media. The paper towel you'll recycle. You'll put in the recycle bin. Alright, so we're going to work with watercolor paint now. So I will give you a large paintbrush and a small paintbrush so you can try different things with them. With watercolor paint, you're going to pick a color that you want to work with, and you're going to get your paintbrush wet, and then you're going to pull that paintbrush bristle across the edge of the oval to pull the water out of the bristle and onto the paint. So you want to get a puddle of paint on top of, or a puddle of water on top of the paint. Then you just gently swirl the water around, gently swirl it around, and you paint the water that's on top. You're not trying to paint the paint that's underneath the water. You're just painting the water. So you can try taking wet water and putting it on dry paper. See what happens. You can rinse your paintbrush off, get your paper wet with just plain water, then take some paint and paint wet paint onto the wet paper and see what happens there. You can try your little paintbrush and try different kinds of lines like wavy. You could try dotted, zigzag, where you overlap the colors and mix the colors. So get your paper wet in a spot. I'm going to get some yellow. You want to start with your lighter color first. And I'm going to paint part of the wet spot on the paper yellow, just half of it. Then I'm going to rinse my paintbrush off, get some red, and paint the bottom half red. And then I'm going to overlap the red onto the yellow and let those two colors mix. You could do it on, this was wet on wet. I could do wet on dry. So I could take some yellow, paint on dry paper, rinse my paintbrush off, then get some green, paint on dry paper, and let the two touch and mix, because you always paint the lighter color first and mix it with the darker color. So that's how you're going to experiment with watercolor. Also, you could try gradation, so dark to light. So you could try to paint a dark color and then lighten it up, and the way that you lighten it up is not through pressure about how hard you push, but more water. So then you get plain water and that lightens that color up. And add dark paint on one side. So that'll get kind of dark to light because I have more water here and less paint, and more paint here and less water. Alright, and for our last media, it's going to be tempera cakes. Tempera cakes is paint that is dried into a cylinder shape or a cake shape. And the way that you get paint from a tempera cake is you get a stiff bristle brush, which is the brown handled brush, and you get your paintbrush wet, and then you swirl around on the paint itself. So this is purple, and it might look empty because it has a big hole in the inside, but there's paint around the edges. So you swirl around the edges and see how the purple looks different than the orange. The orange is more of a solid cake, so you could swirl around in the middle, but the purple and the blue kind of have holes in the bottom, so you swirl around the edges. And you can do a lot of the same things with tempera cakes that you do with watercolor. You can paint wet paint onto dry paper. Try your different kinds of lines, wavy, dot to dot, or dotted line, and zigzag. Rinse your paintbrush off when you're going to change colors. Swish it out really good. Pick a new color, and you can do wet onto wet. So I could get the paper wet, rinse my paintbrush off, get paint, swirl around, and put paint on wet. I could try to do value where I go light to dark or dark to light. So I'll do blue. So I get a lot of blue and then less and less, and I get some water on my paintbrush so I can lighten it up. It could get lighter. I can paint a color. That's my paintbrush off. Paint another color right next to it, overlap the two a little bit, and see if I can mix and make a third color in the middle. And so that's temper cakes.